Alright, today I'm going to real quick run through and show you how to import some vector art, some black and white vector art, and then create from that clip art the vector files that you need to use to get something cut on the machine. So we'll go ahead. I want to make this 5.5 by 5.5 or 3/4 of an inch. I will keep my XY datum position at the center, and my units are going to stay in inches, so I'll go ahead and click OK. Now to import that vector art, first I got to find some and save it. Now I already did this ahead of time. I pulled up a Google search for ClipArt. There is this girls basketball clip art right here that I really think is pretty interesting, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. And I will just click on that and save that image to my desktop. It is a JPEG image, so that's good. I usually want to try to find either JPEG images or bitmaps for this. They tend to work a little bit better. Actually, there's a couple others in here. I might want to, that one's not bad. Maybe I'm going to take, let me take this one here too. We'll kind of play around and see which one is, gives us the same thing, or gives us the best when we go to cut it. So go back to VCarve. Now I am going to use the import bitmap for tracing tool. That is up here in file operations, the top row, the far right icon. So we'll click that. I just have to go then and find that particular clip art. So we'll start with the girl basketball silhouette, the one I did first, and we'll go ahead and bring that in. Now notice that comes in pretty much on size, so a little bit too large. I want to shrink this down a little bit, so I'll just click on the actual picture, and I can move this back and forth, kind of get it to the size that I want. So there we go. So, and notice I don't really necessarily have to do anything here. We can zoom to fit, zoom box. I've got different options here, a pan view there. So you got different things that you can do with that as well if you need to. But so I usually just find that it works best just to kind of click on the actual image and move it with my mouse. So now, so there's my image, and we'll keep that highlighted. All it is right now is a picture on that board. I can't do anything with it. I still need to go in and create vector art for it. So the tool that I have to use for that is called Create Vectors here, and the Trace Bitmap tool within the Create Vectors section. So let's click on that. Again, I can either do color images or I can do black and white. So black and white's pretty easy, and typically I find that this number of colors or threshold usually works best somewhere between 0.7 and 0.85. I don't worry too much about corner fit or the noise filter on here when I'm doing a black and white image, because it doesn't seem to impact it too much. It does when I'm doing color images. But then my bitmap fading, if you slide this over, you'll see how that does make a change, and so I do generally keep that down pretty low. Now I can just click a preview. Now as soon as I hit this preview button, you'll see vector arts forming around those black lines. There you go. Got it? So I'm going to go ahead and apply it because I like what I see. Double click on here. We'll close this out. I'll double click on that image till I get it highlighted and move this out of the way so you can actually see what it actually looks like. So, alright, let's delete this image out. Now, lots of possibilities here. Notice how these kind of have different areas as I click on them. So we may have some bitmap or some vectors as I zoom in. Notice this isn't closed off, it's its own separate one here. So Depending on your toolpath and what you're cutting, you could get some different things here with this. So up here where the fingers, notice in order to do these fingers, those fingers are separate vectors as well. So if you don't have them all selected, it's not going to generate the toolpath that you want it to. So one way that you can take care of and fix that is to just kind of come over here, highlight around everything so that you have them all done, and then you can just group all those vectors together over here in the edit object. So we'll just say group selected objects. Now, no matter what I do, they're one object now, and you can move them all separately and they'll always be there. If you need to break them apart and do certain ones individually, that's okay too. You just have to go back and ungroup them. So real quick now, to determine my toolpath, I'm going to go right over here to toolpaths. We'll bring that up. In this case, I want to run the VCarve engraving toolpath. So I'm going to click that. I only want to go in on this one. Well, we'll say that we're going to go 0.075. That's about 10 thousandths over a 16th of an inch. That way it'll give me a little bit of material to go in. Say if I want to spray paint the parts that I cut out, and then I kind of go in through after that and plane that down so I can remove the paint. Now, my tool that I'm cutting is already selected for me with this particular cutting path. But I'll go ahead and say if I needed to change that, so we'll select it. Notice there are some of these tools, like a radius end mill, a 1/2 inch straight, 1/4 inch. Some of these tools are locked out that you can't actually use with this particular cutting path. So you have to select the right one. Now you got different size V bits, a 60 degree, you got 90 degrees. So I think in this case I'm going to go with a 90 degree first. Now that 90 degree is the angle here, and if you're looking at your tool database info, it shows you exactly what you're looking at here. So, and your feeds, all your parameters are set in here. So pass over, final step over, and so forth is there. So we'll go ahead and hit OK, and then calculate to see what this looks like. So there we go. Now let me go ahead and preview this toolpath, and out it comes. Here's what it looks like. Say I want to try and see some different colors or experiment with some different paints. Maybe you got maybe your school colors are maroon. Maybe your school colors are blue. I don't know. Try it out. You can change the colors to get the preview. And in our case, our colors are purple. So I'll go ahead and I'll put purple, or I could go put gold for our school colors. Now, I do want to point this out. As we zoom in, notice you do get these ripples in there. And what that is that's the actual step over of the tool. See this line right here? That's the step over. Each time the machine would go around, it would machine its path. It probably started here in the middle, kind of went over this way, back, then it kind of came around this way, moved to the next one, back. That's the step over. And you got a pretty big step there. So we're going to take that out. We don't want to see that. And we need to change that step over rate to fix that so we don't have that in there. So let me back this back up. I'm going to put this in isometric. That's typically how I kind of prefer to look at these, is in isometric view. And just real quick, I'll check the machine time. This was about 2 minutes to cut, and then we'll compare the time that it'll take to do this other path. But we'll definitely get a much nicer finish here. So I'm going to use the same tool, but I still got to go back in there. And right here, notice the final pass step over, it was 50 thousandths of an inch. So we're going to shrink that down. I'm going to say I want that final pass step over to be 0.010. So 10 thousandths of an inch. So that'll leave me much less on there. It will take a lot longer to machine this. So let me come back. We'll recalculate here. So let me reset my preview and let's run this over again, and let's see here now. Now, notice you're still seeing some of the step over paths, but it's definitely a lot closer. It's giving you a lot better formation, and of course on the bottom of that will be a lot nicer and smoother image. Notice how it's even kind of given some of the highlights there on that. So you still have that ripple effect from the step over, but it's not as bad. Checking the time, it was about 2 minutes before. Let me close this. We're up to 6 minutes 16 seconds, so it does take a little bit longer, but again, that amount of time, think about how much time you'd be sanding to try to get that out. So it's kind of relative. 6 minutes really isn't that much. If you're comparing 6 minutes to 2 minutes, that 4-minute difference, it'd take me a lot longer than that to sand that. So I kind of prefer to let the machine do it rather than sand it myself. I can even go back in. Matter of fact, I might even want that to be finer, so I can go back in with that final pass step over, and I can split that in half. Let's go 0.005, 5/1000ths of an inch. We'll apply that and hit OK. We'll go ahead and recalculate here and rerun this machine toolpath. So reset it, and here we go. Run it over again, and again we get a nice cutout image. This will take a little bit longer, so you got to realize that we went from 0.010, 10,000ths of an inch step over, to 0.005 thousandths of an inch step over, which basically means that tool is moving and taking twice as many passes to get everything done. So I would imagine this is probably going to be somewhere around 12 minutes in machine time. So as we look, estimated, 11 minutes 44 seconds. Again, we were going over everything twice as much as we did on the other one in that. So there is a quick way to get a nice image onto your board, cut out, giving it that relief type look. A great gift to have here in March for March Madness if you got a special basketball player. So thank you for watching. This is Mr. C. Hope that you learned something from this video today.